Our first guest is a mindful sustainability educator, speaker, and founder of Sustainable 3, and co-founder of Sustainable Happiness Together. She is deeply passionate about the environment and wellness. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Liz Rutledge. Thank you so much for being with us, and how is your day going?
My day is going great, Jason. Thanks so much. And thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. But I'd like to start by asking you, how did you get involved with mindfulness?
Well, that's a bit of a rocky start as far as teaching mindfulness. I essentially grew up with mindfulness because my great grandmother was actually really into the science of mind, which if you look into that, it's a book that was written in 1938, and it talks about basically mindfulness meditation and healing the body through things like affirmations and whatnot. And so I grew up with that stuff, and it was just part of my life. But then I have three children, and they're now 20, 18, and 15. But when our oldest was 12 and in middle school, I was very disturbed to learn that one of our community members had taken his own life at the age of 14. And he was the older brother of a friend of hers, and I just was in shock. And I just couldn't believe that somebody that age would even know how to do that and have so little hope to want to do that. I've since learned a lot more about anxiety and depression and trauma and ways to manage it. But at the time, in my naivety, I went to the school counselor and I said, I find this completely unacceptable. What can I do to help prevent children from taking their own lives? And she assigned me to be a mentor with another student. And I was like, this isn't enough. And so I ended up coming into the school and teaching mindfulness. And it was sort of a volunteer program at first. And I taught there for about 7 years. I'm actually still running a mindfulness club there, even though none of my kids are at the school anymore. And I teach mindfulness to elementary school kids at the elementary school down the street. And I feel like that's a start, and we're getting some, I've been teaching there about 4 years. We're getting some good data around how it's helping in the classroom and whatnot, but I don't feel like it's enough. So I have a deep, deep passion of getting as many schools doing this and parents teaching it with their kids and whatever else. So I'm not saying that mindfulness is the solution to prevent suicide, but it's a start. And that's how I got started doing that.
Well, that's perfect, because I know in schools it's very important. I know when I was growing up, there's a school counselor, but she was overwhelmed with a lot of students, and having you there is a perfect opportunity. When we speak about mindfulness, like, what is the first thing you start with somebody with that may be listening out there, and how do you get into the schools to teach it? Because other schools might be listening, like, oh, I want to have her come into my school and teach mindfulness.
So the first question, are you asking how I get people to start meditating, or how I approached schools to teach mindfulness?
What's the first step if you were to start with someone for mindfulness that they want to just think about, like, what is the first part of mindfulness? I mean, what is mindfulness?
Well, my favorite definition of mindfulness is being present in this moment without judgment. So it just comes down to observation, but the key is to get still. And in 2021, it's really hard to do that because we are bombarded with social media and traffic and news. And, it's just, there's no end to the number of distractions available to us. So it starts with a breath, right? It starts with getting still, hopefully feeling safe to close your eyes and just finding now and now and now. And what I found is that, like, the youngest the youngest of the middle schoolers that I teach are sixth graders, and they can't believe how long a minute feels. So we'll do breath work for like a minute, and a minute can go by. It can feel like very fleeting, or it can feel like forever, right? Depending. So the more still we get, it's almost like we're bending time in a sense. But when we can get still, we can start to recognize and label maybe some difficult emotions we're experiencing, and we can shift our energy, and we can calm our nervous system. And there's all kinds of science, neuroscience around just taking a deep, slow breath in at like your heart space area or deeper in your lungs actually physically calms down your nervous system, lowers your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure. All kinds of things are beneficial of just breathing. But what I've learned over doing this for almost 10 years with people, especially I've started working with adults, a lot of adults don't like to just sit and close their eyes and breathe. So I mix it up and do a bunch of different techniques to get people centered in now.
It's absolutely, yeah, it's perfect that you mentioned it that way. So really why I asked that is because when I learned meditation for the first time, it did feel like a long time focusing on one object or the breath control. But I do it every day now, and it has changed my anxiety forever. I had social anxiety for my whole life. And that's a big reason why I got into meditation, the podcasting. I learned a lot from individuals like yourself that teach that. And the biggest question I did have is, what are the signs of a student dealing with anxiety or with depression or with suicide? Because I just spoke to I do mentoring and Toastmasters for kids in high school. And I mentioned meditation, and I told them what I was dealing with. They actually said out loud that they're overwhelmed with schoolwork, with football practice, and also everything going on, and that they're going to take a break and step back a little bit. And that was the first sign I saw them have a little panic in their eyes, and then a realization that they're overdoing it. And that's wanting to see what the sign was.
Yeah. To your point, I mean, I think it comes with when you see withdrawal from activities, withdrawal from interacting with other kids. I know that yeah, absolutely the world is incredibly overwhelming right now, and all the things that we're dealing with. If I had been born into this generation without these tools, I don't know how I would handle it, because they're stepping into, this digital age, endless amounts of information being thrown at them all the time, the pressures of school, maybe sports, and climate change, and all these things that are happening in the world. And then we don't even know what's going on at home. Maybe mom's just lost her job, or dad is abusive, or dad just lost his job, or somebody was in a car accident, or somebody had COVID. We don't know what people are dealing with personally. So it's looking for that withdrawal. Maybe they don't like to make eye contact. I mean, I'm not an expert on these things, but I do know, I personally struggle with genetic anxiety myself. And I too have learned over the years that, over the past few years, that meditating every single day has actually built that muscle of resilience, so that when I feel that anxiety building up, I have something that's there that's helping me stay more calm. And I'm noticing, like, I'm losing my temper less with my kids, and I'm being less anxious with my husband or whatever else, because I'm facing all the things I just described too. It's just that I didn't grow up with feeling like, the phone in my hand, the pressures, the social pressures they must be dealing with are incredible. So to think you're watching for different, if you don't know the person, you're watching for those body signals, like lack of eye contact, this, maybe the way they're holding their posture, looking for, are they able to sit still? And if you know them a little bit better, maybe you're watching for changes in behavior, anger outbursts, and fidgeting, distractibility. But having said that, I just recently learned about, kids who have had trauma sometimes need to be able to fidget to be able to focus. So like I said, the sitting still and breathing doesn't work for everybody, but it sure does help me. And I know the kids that I've worked with all have said, like, they just love it. And in some cases, I was trained by Mindful Schools, and a lot of the kids they work with and that I've worked with say that sometimes that meditation practice, that mindfulness, is the highlight of their day. And so giving them something to look forward to, especially if they're dealing with overwhelm. But also I think it's important to keep things in perspective. So one technique that I use, and I apologize if I'm talking too much, but one technique that I use is the gratitude, right? So if you're feeling overwhelmed, can you stop, maybe even set a timer for a minute or 2 minutes, and just start breathing and listing things that are going well, things that are a gift, eyes to see, ears to hear. If you're blind, maybe you are able to hear better, and to be able to taste and touch, and family members and friends and community and whatever else. Like, there's always something to find that you can be thankful for, because maybe you don't have any friends, but you're crafty and into doing art, or you're able to play an instrument, something that feeds your soul. Maybe you love to run. There's always something that we can be grateful for. And I think that at least for me, when I feel like I'm in the pit of despair, to use to use a Princess Bride reference, I use that, like, I have this analogy of like Wesley pulling the rope. I don't know if you've seen The Princess Bride. Have you seen
I
that?
have, yeah.
He's in the sand pit and he's like pulling himself out of the sand pit with Buttercup holding onto him and I just when I actually have that visual when I'm really feeling bad, and I teach this to kids, like, what's one thing you can be thankful for? I have a home. There are lots of homeless people right now. I have, heat. I have clothes on my back. And you just go back to the fundamentals, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and just get back to like, okay, so your phone broke. What else is what's going right? What is going well?
Absolutely. Gratitude is the best way to start your day. Meditation and gratitude is what I do every day too, because you don't realize what you have that other people don't have. And that's really, really important nowadays. And the reason why I asked about the students is because a lot of kids are in school that need that time away. And if schools hire you, do you have an online program pre-recorded for schools to listen to? Or it's just one-on-one virtually, or do you go in person?
Well, my most recent offering has been to do videos for the elementary school. When COVID hit, I used to go in the classroom and bop around from classroom to classroom, but I wasn't serving the entire school. So actually, COVID was sort of a gift because it pivoted me into doing videos. So now I'm a video editing expert, so to speak. I'm going to put that in air quotes because I'm not an expert, but I've learned a lot and able to keep them short and sweet so that the teachers can play the videos in the classroom. And so that would be my current offering that I have. And I have now a collection of videos that I can even customize for schools to integrate their mascot or whatever into the videos. And I change the topic every week. And like I said, some people don't like to sit and breathe. And I also think they're in front of screens way too much. So I try to make sure that either closing their eyes or standing up and moving their bodies is somewhere in the meditation practice. But the practice itself is only about 2 minutes and the videos are about 5 minutes. And it also gives teachers an opportunity to have what they called in Australia, where we lived for a while, relief from face-to-face time. And so they can get a break too. The teachers can practice. And they've shown that when the teachers practice, the kids are more receptive. So the whole classroom gets a little bit of a reset or a break and a moment to just be calm for a moment and reset. But I have partnered, as you said, with Dr. Serena Bullard, who is literally certified in in resilience and the science of happiness and well-being. And she and I have put together a course collection, which is more intended for adults, but we're actually today we're videoing a kids course that will be available hopefully by December 1st of 2021. And that will be available to anybody. We'd love to get that into schools because it will be potentially able to dovetail with curriculum. But yeah, so I've got a YouTube channel and every week I send a link to the school, and that's what I have to offer so far.
That's perfect. Now, it's great offerings out there. And I know that kids that do fidget, the fitness ball works really well from the bounce on. A lot of schools incorporate a fitness ball when they were in person. Me as a fitness trainer and an exercise physiologist, I know the fitness ball, a lot of kids were using that and they love the movement of it and the core training of it. You get tired after a while sitting on it, so you just can't do it all day long, but it's great for kids to take a little break and sit down.
Yeah, they have, in some of the classrooms, when I used to go in the classroom, they would have like these sandbags that they could put on their laps, that kind of heavy weight can be helpful. I know, and squeeze balls, stress balls, whatever you call them, can be helpful for kids to. That was a new learning for me recently, that actually some kids need to fidget to be able to calm down. And that just blew my mind a little bit because I just didn't understand. But now I get it. I'm like, that's awesome. So yeah.
An awful little adrenaline and that's different emotions. And you need to move. It's like pretty much like exercise overall. I guess they were trying to get their body to calm down as a way of helping them relax. While we're talking about exercise and wellness and mindfulness, what is your total definition of wellness? I know we mentioned in the last episode, but I was just curious to see what you thought about what your definition of wellness was.
Well, I'll just review. The World Health Organization sort of declared in 2018 that mindfulness is a critical pillar of wellness. But of course, nutrition, exercise, and sleep, I would say, are the other three aspects that I would definitely say are the critical aspects of wellness. But I'd also like to just mention the wellness of our planet And so my business is called Sustainable 3 because I like to focus on helping people live more sustainably. The reality is, no matter what our political beliefs are or where we live, we're all sharing the same air on some level, and we're all sharing the same oceans on some level. And so it's important that our planet is healthy so that we can be healthy and well.
Absolutely. Yeah, after the break, we're definitely going to dive more into all the different aspects of your business. When we come back, we'll learn more about Liz Rutledge business and learn more about her blog. We're back here with Liz Rutledge talking about the importance of mindset and happiness. So I saw that you work with the community and you talk about recycling and the different elements, but what is the first thing we can do to help our community get closer or, I guess, more well?
Well, I've recently learned about the importance of connection, human connection to other people. So I think it's great to be able to reach out to neighbors. And so this one time I reached out to our neighbors and I just put a note on everybody's doors and our alley neighbors. So everyone on my side of the street and then everyone on the opposite side of the alley on that side of the street, just basically saying, hey, let's pick this day and let's go to behind our houses and just clean up any trash. And I think it brought a lot of awareness to kind of the litter that maybe is on the ground that people weren't noticing, and trimming branches or cleaning up graffiti or whatever else. But one of the most important things that I think we can do is compost. So encouraging composting on some level. So in Denver, where I live, we're very fortunate to have compost bins that you can pay for. You pay quarterly and you wheel them out to the street and this big truck comes by. And so that's awesome. I personally compost in our kitchen. And we have a compost bin in the back alley and we just integrate that into the garden as we can. But a lot of people can't do that because they live in apartments. But if they can be involved or help get like a composting program started in their apartment building, and just the littlest thing to help out, and then like if you're walking around the neighborhood or walking your kids to school, encourage your kids and yourself to like pick up, especially after Halloween last week, pick up litter, be prepared to do your part and also don't litter, and then the choices that we make. But another thing I'd love to mention that's been part of how I've been involved in my community, that elementary school where I teach the mindfulness is where my daughter went for a few years, and I got very involved with the community there. And every day on Earth Day, they do like a little field trip around the blocks surrounding the school, and have kids, they're wearing gloves, and they're using those little pickers to pick up trash. And I used to volunteer for that every year because I could educate as I was walking the kids around and have them be aware of what's compostable, what's recyclable, being aware of like, it's not okay to just throw your candy wrapper or your granola bar wrapper on the ground. That's going to be clogging up the sewer system or maybe harming some wildlife, and it's ugly. No one wants to look at garbage. But the most important thing that I've been trying to get schools to do is that composting, because it leads to carbon capture. It reduces methane and CO2 in the atmosphere, and that all helps contribute. It's one of the most powerful things that we can do.
Yeah, I, for one, actually compost. I have a big compost area in my backyard made with cinder blocks in the back corner. And I use that for the soil for the garden. I put eggshells in there, coffee grounds in there. I actually use coffee grounds and eggshells in my plants because they love the nitrogen, calcium, and they love that nutrients from your food. And overall, what's the first thing we can do to start recycling? I know some of our communities don't have recycling. We have to drive somewhere. They don't have recycling in my area, besides I have to drive, have garbage pickup, but you need to pay extra for recycling. For people, what's the first step we can do to help each other out with recycling? Because there is a lot of trash all over the place, which I really, really upset seeing that. And I feel like people are lazy, but I wish more people like us were helping others with recycling.
Yeah, COVID has not helped this situation because a lot of people have had to shift to doing single serve and doing more eating out and things like that. So I do think we're ending up with more garbage in general, and people are overwhelmed. So to have to deal with that is hard. Having said that, there are ways that you can petition your city to get recycling. It is a bummer to have to drive, but we have, my mother-in-law has a house in Pennsylvania where it's very different, and she's only there part of the year. So she doesn't pay for the the city pickup and recycling. She has a whole system where she has little container or big containers actually, to where they're, one for aluminum and one for glass and one for back there. They're much more streamlined in the way not streamlined, the opposite of streamlined, but it's better, cleaner recycling because each product is recycled individually. So maybe this is kind of is this what you have going on in your area where, the cans go to one place and plastic, but it has to be separated out by type of plastic? Is it like that?
We take it to a recycling area. It's like a garbage dump, but also a recycling area. They have all the bins set up, the big steel, I guess you could call them shipping containers that they fill up, and then they take it to a recycling plant.
Yeah, and actually, despite the inconvenience, that's actually a much better way to recycle versus the single stream recycling. Because having toured the single stream recycling facility here in Denver, it's pretty depressing. But just because they have people just frantically trying to sort because people don't do it properly, and things get intermixed, and there are things in there that can't be recycled, and oftentimes we're doing all this effort to recycle and try to do the right thing, and those things aren't getting recycled. So despite the inconvenience, you're actually doing a better job by recycling things in those categories, so to speak. But I think, and part of my passion for my blog is to make living more sustainably as easy as possible. The best thing really you can do is thinking about what you're purchasing. Think about your choices. So I always try to encourage people towards a more sustainable choice, realizing that life is busy. It's hard to, doing it the way I do it isn't necessarily easy. So if it's possible, use a reusable water bottle instead of buying bottled water. Reusable shopping bags rather than those plastic bags. You start bumping into real big problems when you talk about going to the grocery store where you've got salad in plastic bags and you've got, all kinds of products with multiple materials involved, and separating all that out is a lot of work. So it really comes down to choices. So if you can shop at a farmer's market and use your own containers and own bags, that's ideal, but not easy for a lot of people. So then you go to the recycling level, and then it's thinking about, okay, should I buy this product that's in a material that I can't recycle? And if the answer is no, you probably should try to choose something else if you can. But again, that's not always easy. So then it just comes down to trying to reduce the amount of packaging that we are dealing with. And again, challenging, but not insurmountable. I've noticed that in COVID, it's been really hard because there's so much more individual wrapping of things. And so then you can look at something like TerraCycling. TerraCycling does have, do you know about TerraCycle?
I haven't heard that. No, that terminology, I haven't heard of TerraCycling. No.
You might look up their website, TerraCycle. TerraCycle is one thing where they will send you a box, and you can choose what type of materials you want to put in there. So, for instance, toothpaste tubes and shampoo bottles and shampoo tube, your hair gel tube and stuff like that is oftentimes not accepted in the recycling stream. And so you can get that recycled by using TerraCycle. They do charge money, so that would be a commitment. But you might be able to get, if you're in a community, you might be able to get a bunch of families to pitch in for that and do TerraCycling. And they have one that kind of just is a catch-all. And so you could just throw all the stuff in there, ship it off, and maybe not even have to drive to your recycling center anymore. And then they sort it and make sure it gets processed and becomes like the lining for coats or, whatever it ends up being. It gets recycled in a clean and efficient way, but it does cost money. There's no really right answer, unfortunately. The only thing I do is try to encourage people on my blog to make better choices towards more sustainable living. And we may not get there, but another thing is activism. So encouraging your government, your local government, your city to make it a higher priority, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, especially right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. The more you do, the better you are. I know when I see a lot of clothing, I see made with water bottles. I see shoes that are made with old tires, encouraging people to buy recycled materials and to recycle them if they're able to is probably the best way to go. And I love stores like Aldi. For instance, you go shop at Aldi, you just take a box and put all your stuff in there. There's no plastic bags, no paper bags, and it cuts down all of the waste. And I reuse the bags too. A lot of times I'll use the bags to carry stuff with me to work. I don't throw them out. I keep them. Do the best I can to reuse as much as I possibly can. Even packing in a box, I use that sometimes for projects. All those things do help. In your business, what else do you cover? I know the 3 steps. Did we cover the 3 steps or 3 areas of your business?
I'm not sure, but just to reiterate, it's mindfulness. It's all mindfulness about ourselves. So that's where the breath work, the meditation, coaching, and those sorts of things come into play. And then mindfulness about our community. So, like I said, being active in your community. In our neighborhood, we have neighbors that have like community raised garden beds. And the local school actually has chickens and raised garden beds, and or actually garden plots that you can like rent and or share sort of. And then any leftover of that food goes to the local food bank and stuff like that. So there can be like this cyclical thing. So just being involved in your community not only will help your community and your neighborhood or whatever feel nicer, but also that human connection piece is also mindfulness about ourselves, and then mindfulness about our planet. So thinking about our choices that we're making, it can be as simple as choosing compostable bags instead of plastic bags for our dog waste, for example. It can be choosing to ride your bike if wherever you're going is within 2 miles. And then you're getting exercise, fresh air, and you're not polluting the environment. It can be choosing to take the bus or the train or, do you guys have Lyft scooters and some of those like Lime bikes and things?
Yeah, in the national area.
Instead of owning a car, maybe you don't need 2 cars, or maybe you, you can choose a hybrid if you are fortunate enough to have a Tesla or whatever. And then if you can afford it, and there's all these incentives now to have solar. So if you're eligible for solar, and then you can have an electric car, like a Nissan Leaf, I think basically becomes a net negative expense because you're running it off solar, and then it's not that expensive because of the way you're reducing your electric bills and whatever else, and then you're not polluting the environment. Solar's not perfect, wind isn't perfect, but I was thinking today, actually I was reflecting on this, it's not putting the pollution into the air right there. So we just need to be thinking through some of our choices. And again, it's complicated, it's challenging, but my coaching and my blog is designed to help alleviate some of the stress of the decision-making process. And I think, I did a 21-day challenge in 2014, and the idea was to get people just thinking. And so I encourage, like, post a picture of yourself doing whatever it is. Have you ever heard of this thing called plogging?
I haven't heard that, no.
So plogging is, and I'm probably going to run us over time because I could literally talk about this for hours and hours. Plogging is where you jog around your neighborhood with a bag and you pick up trash.
Oh, wow.
And off the street, and you just turn it into a game, and you can do it with friends, and just make it into something fun. And you can organize like Earth Day cleanup things and all kinds of stuff. Just to
That's
make
great.
it
No, that's perfect. I went running yesterday, and definitely didn't realize that you can do that if you really wanted to, and get a group together. That's a perfect idea. And riding your bike, I even said about this the other day, is that if I would like to want to challenge people to ride their bike, to go to a place that they're not have to pick up a large amount of items. For instance, I ride my bike to the store. If I want to buy a few things, I put it in my backpack and ride it back home. If it's a nice day, it's therapeutic. And also you get exercise at the same time. There's no need to go 2 miles to pick up chapstick and whatever you're going to pick up, or a few vegetables. Riding your bike.
Or maybe you can. Yeah, that's so awesome. I love that you're doing that. And maybe if you are wanting to go for a walk that day, you can combine it with running for your chapstick, or going on an errand for your chapstick, or whatever you need. Or like you say, and it's perfect, like bring a backpack. And yes, we all do that a lot. My husband and I will like take our dog so the dog can get her walk in, and we can get our steps in. And then he'll just wait outside with the dog while I run into the store and get whatever we need that day. And it's nice. The weather's been fantastic here in Colorado, so we've really been enjoying doing that. So yeah, absolutely.
No snow yet, right? You're lucky. That's good. We don't have snow either in Tennessee.
There's 10 feet of snow here, and it's miserably cold, so no need to move here.
Yeah. In 2 months, right? In about 2 months' time. Enjoy it while it lasts, right? It'd be perfect. Unless you're a skier or a
I mean, I'm
snowboarder.
totally kidding, but there's a lot of people have moved here since 2014, and it's just getting a little much. But that's a perfect example of why I'm passionate about helping people be conscious about the environment. Because I grew up in Colorado, and the brown cloud that they call the pollution cloud that used to hover over just the tall buildings downtown now stretches from Colorado Springs to Boulder. It's miles and miles and miles of this polluted brown cloud, and it's disgusting. And the most refreshing thing was when we were in COVID lockdown, the air was clear. You could see the stars and you could smell the fresh air. And it was like, yeah, we are having an impact on the planet. There's really no debate about it. You can see it. You know, there were dolphins in Venice and all kinds of environmental, like, amazing things that happened when we all just stopped for a while. So, but we still have to live our lives. We still have to go to work. We still have to whatever. So, yeah.
It takes one to make a difference, and you got to have a group, and that group needs to spread out and help each other out. So all we need to really do is help each other out. And I'm glad your business is all about mindfulness and sustainability for the environment, because we definitely need more people talking about the environment. And that's why people listening out there, it just takes a few steps, and then you can keep going and then make a bigger impact on the world. Is there anything else I forgot to mention, and how do people find you?
I think you covered the highlights, and the best way to reach me is sustainable3.com.
But thank you, Liz, for being on the show. It was greatly appreciated learning about your environment and also your mindfulness. Please contact Liz, and all her information will be in the bio section of this podcast. But Liz, have a great day, keep fit, and have a great fit day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you very much. I'd like to give a huge thank you to Liz for sharing with us about her business and what she does for her clients and the environment. That was an awesome interview, and I greatly appreciate it. I'm your host, Jason Cronan, and the Body Express Wellness Solution tip is, like Liz said, is to recycle. Just think, this yogurt cup right here could be a paint cup, or it could be used for pens or for storage. You can decorate it, use it for crafts for yourself, or even for your kids. Just think, this gets only used one time. And it can be used for multiple things, to store food in for a short period of time, or even for items around the house, for pennies, for change, for tools, anything like that. Or for those loose screws. I have many of those, I'm just kidding. But overall, recycle, like Liz said. Your bottles, in some states you actually get some money back for recycling. Some people make a living just collecting bottles. Large bottles, small bottles, and also giant bottles. And if you don't have a recycling center at your facility or where you live, just put these bottles into a separate bag and find out where the closest facility is to you and take them there once a week or twice a week and make a little trip out of it and then go shopping. But I'm Jason Cronan here saying recycle, and thank you, Liz, again. And please like, share, and subscribe and follow us, and your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you guys. Have a great fit day.